Do you remember the first time you lost something you thought you could never live without? A toy you carried everywhere as a child. A letter from someone you loved. Or maybe your first heartbreak. In those moments, the world feels heavy. Not because of what you owned, but because of what slipped through your hands. And yet, here's the strange truth about life. It is not possession that moves our hearts. It is loss that breaks them. Epicurus, the ancient philosopher, once said, "Riches do not exhilarate us so much with their possession as they torment us with their loss." And when I first heard those words, I felt them cut through me like lightning. Because isn't that the world we live in today? We chase the next dollar, the next car, the next vacation, the next follower. And for a brief moment, we feel alive. But the moment it slips, when the job vanishes, the market crashes, the relationship ends, or the notification goes silent, it feels like we've lost everything. This is the paradox of being human. We are more shaken by absence than we are lifted by presence. Welcome to Daily Drive Dose. Today I want to take you on a journey. Not through theories, not through motivational slogans, but through the quiet corners of life, where this truth unfolds again and again. Because inside that paradox, inside the torment of loss, lies the secret to living free. Let me begin with a story. In 1929, America was roaring. Jazz in the streets. Cars rolling off assembly lines. Men and women dressed in their best, believing prosperity was eternal. But then the stock market fell. And with it, millions of lives crumbled. A man named Charles Mitchell was at the very heart of it. The president of National City Bank, admired, envied, a man of enormous wealth. When the crash came, Mitchell's fortune evaporated almost overnight. His name, once synonymous with power, became entangled with scandal and shame. But here's the haunting part. The fall didn't just strip him of wealth. It stripped him of identity. Because when everything you are is tied to what you own, the moment you lose it, you lose yourself. Doesn't that echo in our own time? We check our bank apps 10 times a day. We measure our worth by likes and comments. We feel safe only when the number in the account is rising, the stock is green, the followers increasing. And yet, beneath it all, a quiet fear hums. What if it disappears? You see, the torment of loss is not about money alone. It's about fragility. The fragility of building our house on sand. Pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine tomorrow morning you wake up and everything you cling to, your job, your phone, your car, your home, is gone. Would you still know who you are? Would you still stand tall? Or would you crumble like Mitchell? This is where the first current of truth rises. Freedom does not come from what we hold. It comes from what we can let go. Because when you can stand unshaken, even in loss, then and only then can you truly possess yourself. Another story. This one, not from history books, but from the life of someone you might know. There was a woman named Sarah. She lived in Los Angeles, chasing the dream. Worked in marketing. Made 6 figures. Drove a black BMW. Her Instagram was perfect. Rooftop dinners, weekend getaways, photos where the sunlight always hit just right. But behind the screen, Sarah was drowning. Every month, the paycheck vanished into rent, car payments, credit cards. Her joy came not from living, but from curating the illusion of living. One night, alone in her apartment, she scrolled through her feed. Her friends in Paris. Her college roommate with a newborn. A colleague buying a house. And she felt the sharp stab of emptiness. Because in chasing possessions, she had lost peace. In chasing the image of happiness, she had lost its reality. That night, she deleted her Instagram. Not forever, but long enough to hear her own voice again. She sold the BMW, bought a second-hand Prius, moved into a smaller place. And for the first time in years, she slept without anxiety pressing on her chest. Sarah learned what Epicurus meant. Riches don't exhilarate us when we have them. They drain us with fear when we lose them. And so she began to live differently. Not with less ambition, but with less attachment. Loss torments us because we mistake possessions for permanence. But here's the truth no one teaches us in school. Everything is temporary. Your youth. Your beauty. Your money. Even the people you love most. And yet, instead of learning to embrace impermanence, we fight it. We grip tighter. We hoard. We scroll endlessly, terrified that someone else is living more fully than we are. But think about this. When you hold sand too tightly, it slips through your fingers. When you hold water too firmly, it leaks away. Only when you open your hand, when you let things rest gently, can you keep them for a while without destroying them. This is not resignation. It's liberation. There was once a king in ancient India, so tormented by the ups and downs of fortune that he called upon his wisest sage. "Give me something," he said, "that will make me joyful in sorrow and humble in joy." The sage handed him a ring engraved with 4 words, "This too shall pass." And so it is. The wealth you celebrate today will one day be gone. The sorrow you feel today will also one day be gone. When we understand this not just in our minds, but in our hearts, we begin to live differently. Pause. Breathe that in. This too shall pass. But let's bring it closer to home. Do you know what Americans fear most, according to countless surveys? It isn't crime. It isn't sickness. It isn't even death. It's financial insecurity. The fear of not having enough. And yet, we live in the wealthiest era humanity has ever known. We have air conditioning, smartphones, streaming services, online shopping. We can summon food to our doors in minutes. And still, we are anxious. Why? Because riches don't exhilarate us when we have them. They torment us when we think they're not enough. And so we chase. We hustle. We burn out. We forget why we began in the first place. Let me tell you about Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. In the camps, prisoners lost everything: Homes, families, freedom, dignity. Some even lost their names, reduced to numbers stitched on their uniforms. And yet, Frankel observed something remarkable. Those who survived were not always the strongest or the fittest. They were the ones who found meaning beyond possessions. They were the ones who, even when stripped of everything, could still hold hope, could still choose their response. Frankel later wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Think about that. They had nothing. And yet, they had themselves. Isn't that the opposite of Charles Mitchell, who had everything but collapsed when it was gone? Here's the lesson. When you build your foundation on what cannot be taken, your values, your purpose, your spirit, then no loss can destroy you. So I ask you, where is your foundation? Is it in your paycheck? In your car? In the opinions of strangers online? Or is it in something deeper? Because when your worth comes from within, then riches, whether present or gone, cannot torment you anymore. I could tell you more stories. Of Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, who slept on the ground during military campaigns to remind himself that luxury was an illusion. Of Warren Buffett, one of the richest men alive, who still lives in the same house he bought in 1958, because security comes not from mansions, but from discipline. Of everyday people who downsize, declutter, unplug, and discover a peace money could never buy. But the message is the same, echoing through centuries. Possession never guarantees joy. Loss never guarantees despair. It is the grip that torments us. The letting go that frees us. And so what do? We learn to hold lightly. We learn to be grateful, not for what we keep, but for what we experience. We learn to measure wealth not in numbers, but in moments. A quiet walk, a laugh with friends, the sunrise no one can price. Because the true torment is not that we lose riches. It's that we miss life while chasing them. Let that sink in. So here we are. To you and me. Sitting in this moment together. And I want you to remember this. You are not what you own. You are not what you lose. You are not the torment of possessions slipping through your hands. You are the one who remains when everything else is gone. That is the treasure. That is the freedom. And when you live from that place, you will no longer be shackled by fear of loss. You will walk lighter. Love deeper. Give more freely. Because you will know. Riches do not exhilarate us in possession. They only torment us when we cling. But when we let go, life itself becomes the greatest wealth. And so I leave you with this thought. When you wake tomorrow, don't ask, what do I own? Ask instead, what do I experience? What do I give? Who am I becoming? That is the currency that never loses value. That is the wealth no market can crash. If this journey spoke to you, if it made you pause, reflect, breathe a little deeper, then stay with us. Share this with someone who needs the reminder. Like, subscribe, join this space we're building, not to collect more, but to live lighter, freer, truer. Because here on Daily Drive Dose, we don't just talk about riches. We talk about life. And how to live it, unshaken.